Welcome to Information Nest, your good spot for clear science insights. Today, we are mastering grade 9 science chapter The Cell. From cell theory to membrane bound organelles, we are making biology simple. Let's dive into the fundamental unit of life. Alright, team, welcome to the architecture of reality. On the left, we have the starter pack. It's a crystal lattice. It's geometric, it's organized, and frankly, it's a bit stiff. It's basically the Lego brick of the universe. But then, look at the right. We have leveled up. We took those tiny particles and built a cell. It's got a security gate, the membrane, a bossy CEO, the nucleus, and its own power grid. We went from rock to life, and all it took was a few billion years and a lot of complicated blueprints. No big deal. Look at the numbers on the screen. On the left, we are measuring in angstroms, that is so small that a human hair would look like a giant mountain range next to it. On the right, we have sized up to micrometers for the cell. If that crystal on the left was the size of a single marble, the cell on the right would be, well, about the size of a massive football stadium. Everything you see on the right is made of the stuff on the left. It's like the universe started with Minecraft blocks and ended up with a five-star hotel. If the universe came with an IKEA instruction manual, this would be page 1. Step 1, get some atoms and stick them together in a lattice. Step 2, add about a trillion more pieces and build a cell. If you have leftover pieces, you might accidentally create a virus instead. Today, we are moving past the raw materials and looking at the finished masterpiece, the cell. Try not to let the architecture of reality give you an existential crisis before lunch. If the crystal on the left is the brick and the cell on the right is the building, what part of your body is a city? Keep thinking. Let's meet you in next slide. Okay, look at the wood block on the left. Looks solid, right? Sturdy, reliable, wrong. It's a lie. Your desk, a lie. Your chair, also a lie. If you zoom in enough, everything is just tiny balls vibrating frantically and trying not to touch each other. We are basically living in a giant ball pit that is pretending to be a room. Don't panic, but you're currently sitting on a trillion tiny particles that are literally just dancing. So, particles have three main personality traits. First, they need space. Even in a solid block of wood, they are social distancing. Second, they have too much energy. They are in a constant state of the zoomies vibrating forever. And third, they are clingy. Those attractive forces are the only thing keeping your phone from dissolving into a cloud of dust while you are texting. It's a delicate balance of I like you and stay away from me. Check out the data point in the corner. One tiny crystal of potassium permanganate can turn 1,000 liters of water purple. That is the ultimate one person ruined it for everyone's energy. It's millions of particles self-dividing like they have a deadline to meet. It's basically the glitter of the chemistry world once it is in there. It's everywhere. Everyone, knock on your desk. Sounds solid. Now look at the slide. Tell your neighbor one reason why your hand didn't just pass right through the empty space between those particles. Think of matter as a scale of social awkwardness. Solids are like people in a crowded elevator. Nobody wants to move. Everyone is vibrating with internal panic, but you're stuck in a fixed position. Liquids are like the school hallway during passing period. You have got some flow, you're moving around, but you're still bumping into people constantly. And gases are that one person who needs way too much personal space. They have so much energy, they are literally bouncing off the walls and filling the entire room. They are basically toddlers on a sugar rush. Welcome to the three stages of a Monday morning. First, we have solid, low energy, barely vibrating, refusing to change shape or leave the bed. Then we hit liquid. You're moving, you're fluid, you have assumed the shape of your coffee mug, but you're still contained. Finally, we have gas, full blown chaos, maximum kinetic energy. You are exerting outward pressure on everyone around you and you cannot be compressed. We call this the weekend effect. Try to keep your particles in check, people. Look at the solid block. It's rigid, it's negligible, which is a fancy science word for it doesn't care about your feelings, it's not moving. Then you have the liquid, it's chill, it just wants to fit in, so it takes the shape of the container. But the gas is the main character. It fills the whole room because it can. It's highly compressible, meaning it can be squashed, but it's also moving at maximum speed. It's basically the extrovert of the molecular world. On the count of three, I want everyone to act like a solid. Vibrate your shoulders, but don't move. A liquid, slowly wave your arms. Or a gas, frantically wave your hands. Let's see which state this classroom is in today. Matter is basically just a series of complicated relationships. Fusion is when a solid gets a little too warm and decides to start seeing other people as a liquid. Vaporization is a full-blown breakup. The particles have had enough and just need their own space. But then you have sublimation. That is a ghosting of the science world. The solid looks at the liquid phase and says, nah, I'm skipping the middleman and going straight to gas. Looking at you, camphor and dry ice. No commitment, just vibes. Check out that piston in the corner. That's what we call the school bus effect. If you take a gas where everyone is flying around doing their own thing and you apply enough pressure and maybe turn down the temperature so they stop running, you can literally force them to become a liquid. It's a molecular version of everyone sit down and be quiet. And if you do it to carbon dioxide, you get dry ice. It's so cold, it escapes being wet and goes straight to being a cloud, is the ultimate introvert of the periodic table. Welcome to Cooking with Kinetic Energy. Our first recipe, ice. At 273.15 Kelvin, the heat finally wins the fight against the attractive forces. It's like the particles finally heard the beat drop and started dancing. But if you want the real fireworks, wait for 373 Kelvin. That's the boiling point, a bulk phenomena. That science speak for literally every molecule is trying to leave the building at the same time. It's a riot, but we call it physics. If you were a particle today, would you be undergoing sublimation that is ready to disappear? Fusion starting to relax, or are you under too much pressure? Welcome to the most exclusive club in the universe, the surface. Unlike boiling, where the whole crowd goes wild at once, evaporation is a stealth mission. Only the high energy particles at the top get to break free from the attractive forces, which is basically the molecular version of the friend zone. When these high energy VIPs leave, they take the heat with them, leaving the rest of the liquid feeling very chill. Literally, it's why you get a brain freeze when you sweat in front of a fan. Alright, let's look at our evaporation dashboard. If you want to disappear faster, you have got four buttons. Surface area. Spread out, don't be a cup, be a puddle. Temperature. Crank it up. The particles need zoomies to escape. Next is wind speed. Get a fan to blow the old particles away so the new ones have room. But watch out for humidity. Humidity is the ultimate vibe killer. If the air is already full of water particles, they are going to tell you, sorry, we are at full capacity, go back to your puddle. It's a one-way gauge where low means go. Ever wondered why you feel freezing the second you stop running in PE class? That's the thermodynamics of cooling in action. Your sweat is literally stealing your body heat to fuel its own escape into the atmosphere. It's basically a heat happening on your skin. High energy particles are jumping off you and taking your warmth as a souvenir. You're not just sweaty, you are a high functioning thermodynamic cooling system. You are welcome. Everyone, take the back of your hand and blow on it. Does it feel cold? Congratulations, you just witnessed the escaping high energy particles abandon you in real time. How does it feel to be ghosted by water? Alright, look at the blue box on the left. That's a high concentration area. In human terms, that is a crowded school hallway where everyone is bumping into each other. Particles hate being crowded. They have kinetic energy, which is just a fancy way of saying they have social anxiety and want to find a quiet corner. They will move from the party to the empty room until everyone has exactly the same amount of personal space. It's not a choice, it's a law. Nature basically demands that we spread out. Now, look at the green side. That's your cell membrane, the ultimate bouncer. See the oxygen on the outside. There is a crowd of them out there, and they are desperate to get in because the concentration inside is low. On the flip side, the carbon dioxide is like the trash that is piled up inside the cell. It's crowded, it's smelly, and it wants out. The best part, the cell doesn't have to pay for this. It's a passive exchange. The cell just sits there while the laws of physics move the groceries in and take the trash out. Life is powered by being lazy. We call this the bridge between matter and life. But let's be honest. You already know diffusion because of the unspoken law of the classroom. If someone in the front row, releases a gas, it starts at a high concentration. Give it 30 seconds, and thanks to the physical law on the left, that gas will intermix on its own until the back row can smell it too. That same movement is what keeps your cells alive with oxygen. Same physics, very different vibes. You are welcome for that mental image. Everyone, look at how you are sitting. If all of you moved to one corner of the room, that is high concentration. If I opened the door and told you to diffuse, where would you go? That's exactly what the oxygen molecules are doing to your lungs right now. In 1665, Robert Hooke looked at a piece of dead cork and saw tiny holes. He called them cells, which is Latin for small rooms. Basically, he thought he was looking at a tiny, depressing apartment complex with zero furniture. But hey, it was 1665. He was just happy to have a microscope that worked. Little did he know, he was looking at the graveyard of a plant. He missed all the action because his rooms were empty. It's like judging a house by looking at the dumpster outside. Fast forward to 1674. Anton von Leeuwenhoek, the guy with the super lenses, decided to look at a drop of pond water. Imagine his face when he saw things actually swimming back at him. He called them animalcules, which is honestly a much cuter name than bacteria. It took us another 150 years to realize these things had a brain, aka the nucleus, and some internal goo called protoplasm. Science moves slow, people. It's like waiting for a YouTube video to buffer for 2 centuries. In a world where everything looks solid, a few nerds with magnifying glasses changed everything. From Hooke's dead cork to Leeuwenhoek's wee beasties, the mystery of life was unfolding. But it wasn't until the 1940s, when we got the electron microscope, that we finally got the 4K Ultra HD version of the cell. We went from seeing empty rooms to seeing the complex, chaotic city that lives inside you. This isn't just history, it's the ultimate zoom in challenge. If you were Robert Hooke and saw those tiny rooms for the first time, what would you have named them? So, the classical part of this theory started at a dinner party. Scleeden, the plant guy, and Swan, the animal guy, were having coffee when they realized, wait, my plants look like your animals under the microscope. They basically discovered that everything alive is just a massive collection of microscopic Lego bricks. Then Virchow crashed the party with some Latin, omnis cellula e cellula, which sounds like a magic spell, but it just means cells do not just spawn like video game enemies. They have to come from parents. No magic, just division. Think of the left side as cell theory. It's a basic operating system. Everything is cells. Cells are the base. Cells make more cells. Simple, right? But then we got the modern update. Now we know cells have information storage, basically a biological hard drive called DNA. They have energy flow, which means your cells are constantly doing chores, that is metabolism, just to stay powered up. And chemical uniformity means that deep down a blade of grass and your left toe are using the same chemical recipes. We are all running on the same software. Rule number 3 is the most important. All cells arise from pre-existing cells. That means you are basically a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy going back billions of years. You are essentially a very old, very complex biological Xerox machine. And thanks to information storage on the right, you are carrying around the ancient blueprints, that is DNA, to prove it. Do not think about it too hard, or your metabolism might start overheating. If all cells come from pre existing cells, who can tell me where the very first cell came from? Meet the core three, the original power trio. First up, the plasma membrane. Think of it as the world's pickiest bouncer. It's selectively permeable, which is science speak for if your name is not on the list, you're not getting it. Next, we have the nucleus, the CO brain information hub. It's got a double layered security fence because it is literally holding the blueprints for you. And finally, the cytoplasm. It is the arena. It's a jelly like soup where all the actual work happens. It's basically the office floor where everyone is running around trying to keep the CEO happy. If a cell were a high-tech smart home, here is how it breaks down. The plasma membrane is your smart lock and security camera. It decides who enters and who gets kicked to the curb. The nucleus is the central server and the Wi-Fi router. If it goes down, the whole house stops working. And the cytoplasm. That is the actual air and space inside the house. Without it, the furniture or organelles would just be floating in a void. It's the fluid medium that keeps the party going. 3 parts, 1 goal. Do not let the cell crash. The core 3 have very different personalities. The membrane is flexible but has major trust issues. It's constantly checking everyone's ID. The nucleus is the main character who stays in their office, the nucleoplasm, and obsesses over their DNA collection. And the cytoplasm is just a chill, supportive friend who provides the space for everyone else to have their chemical reactions. It is the arena where the drama happens. They are like a boy band, one's the muscle, one's the brains, and one's just the glue holding them together. If we were a cell right now, the walls of this room are the membrane, and I'm the nucleus. What does that make the air between us and the desk you are sitting at? All right, children. Now that we know what a cell is, we need to talk about how it breathes and breaks. This brings us to a super important process, osmosis. Simply put, it's just water moving from where there is a lot of it to where there is less of it through a membrane. But how does this change the cell? Let's look at these three scenarios. First up, look at the circle on the left, hypertonic. Think of hyper as having too much solute, like salt or sugar, outside the cell. Because there is less water outside, the water inside the cell decides to make a run for it. This is called exosmosis. The result, see those red blood cells. They look shriveled up. In plants, the shell shrinks away from its wall, a process we call plasmolysis. It's basically the cell's thirsty phase. Second, now move your eyes to the middle, isotonic. Iso means equal. Here, the water concentration is the same inside and outside. Water is still moving back and forth, but there is zero net movement. The result, everything is chill, the animal cell stays its normal, healthy shape, and the plant cell stays fluffy or just right. This is a comfort zone for most cells. Finally, look at the right, hypertonic. Think hypo like a hippo, big and round. Here, the surrounding water is very dilute, meaning there is more water outside than inside. Water rushes into the cell through endosmosis. Endosmosis. The result, the animal cells swell up and might even burst like a balloon. In plants, they love this. The cell becomes turgid or firm. This internal pressure is actually what helps plants stand upright without a skeleton. So, to recap for your exams, hypertonic, water leaves, shell shrinks. Isotonic, water stays balanced, cell is normal. Hypotonic, water enters, cell swells. Look at the diagram on the left. That is endocytosis, or as I like to call it, the 3 a.m. fridge raid. Because the membrane is flexible, made of lipids, made of lipids and proteins, it doesn't just touch its food. It gives it a giant, suffocating hug until the food is inside. It's basically the cell saying, "You're mine now." If you have ever wrapped yourself in a blanket and refused to move until you finished a bag of chips, you and the amoeba have a lot in common. Now look at the right. This is plasmolysis and it is tragic. This plant cell was put into a hypotonic solution, which is just a science speak for way too much salt. The water inside the cell says, "I'm out of here," and leaves through osmosis. The cell membrane literally starts pulling away from the walls like a cheap wallpaper. Is the cellular equivalent literally starts pulling away from the walls like a cheap wallpaper. It's the cellular equivalent of being salty and then shriveling up in an argument. Don't be that cell. Stay hydrated. This slide proves your cells are more like liquid than solid because the membrane is made of fats and proteins. It has fluidity. On the left, it's using that fluidity to engulf matter, kind of like a biological Pac-Man. On the right, it's using that same flexibility to shrink away when it loses water. It's a living, flexible structure. It's basically the yoga master of the microscopic world. It bends, it folds, and it survives unless you put too much salt in the water. Think of a prokaryote as a messy dome room. There are no walls. The nuclear region is just a pile of laundry in the corner called a nucleoid. Everything is just there, but eukaryotes, they are living in a mansion. They have a dedicated officer for the DNA, the nucleus, a kitchen, mitochondria, and even a mailroom, the Golgi. Eukaryotes are basically the organized planners of the biological world, while prokaryotes are just winging it in a tiny 1 micron space. If life had a version history, prokaryotes would be version 1.0. They are like those old Nokia phones, small, indestructible, but they only do one thing at a time. They have only got one chromosome. Eukaryotes are the 4K Ultra HD smartphone upgrade. They are up to 100 times larger. They can multitask with membrane bound organelles, and they have multiple chromosomes for all that extra data. We are eukaryotes, which basically means we are the high-tech models of the universe. Do not let the name fool you. Prokaryote doesn't mean they are professional. In Greek, pro means before and eu means true. So prokaryotes are before a brain cells. Their DNA is just floating around like they lost their car keys. Eukaryotes have a true nucleus, basically you, EU, that is you are a eukaryote. If you can remember that you have a brain and a nucleus, you have already passed the test. Prokaryotes, they are just small single chromosome vibes. Everyone look at your hand. You are made of trillions of eukaryotic cells. Now imagine if you were a prokaryote, you would be 100 times smaller. You would only have one chromosome and your DNA would be floating in your cytoplasm soup. Which one feels more like your bedroom on a Saturday morning? Look at the plant cell on the left. It has a large central vacuole that is essentially a giant water balloon taking up 90% of the room. It's so big, it has literally bullied the nucleus, the CEO of the cell, into the corner. The nucleus is just at the periphery like it's in a timeout. Meanwhile, the animal cell is much more balanced. The nucleus gets the centralized penthouse suit because it doesn't have a massive water tank pushing it against the wall. Animals are all about that main character energy. Plants are basically the ultimate life hackers. They have plastids that are called chloroplasts, which are like built in solar panels. They just sit in the sun and make free snacks all day. They also have a cell wall made of cellulose, basically a suit of armor that keeps them standing tall without a skeleton. We, the animal cells, have none of that. No wall, no solar panels. We have to move around and find our own food like hunters. But hey, we have centrioles to help us divide and grow faster. So we have got that going for us. If these cells were houses, the plant cell is a brick fortress. It's got that rigid cell wall, and its Golgi bodies are scattered around in tiny units called dictyosomes, probably because they couldn't find space around the giant vacuum. The animal cell is more like a tent. It's flexible, it's membrane only, and everything is packed neatly in the middle. Plants are built to endure, animals are built to explore. Also, plants have crystals just floating in them, which sounds fancy, but it's basically just cellular jewelry. Okay, class, quick check. If I am a cell and I'm feeling salty and my nucleus is being pushed into a corner by a giant bag of water, am I a blade of grass or a golden retriever? Grass. Alright, children, it's time for a theory throwdown. On the left, we have the modern consensus. This is a cell as a high tech fortress. It's got protein pumps, ion channels, and it runs on ATP, which is basically cellular battery power. It's sleek, it's organized, and it's very picky about who it lets in. But look at the right, that's the bulk phase theory. Back in the day, scientists thought the whole cell was just a giant, sentient bucket of living jelly called protoplasm. They thought everything was just stuck together in a permanent hug. We went from the blob to cyberpunk to 2077 in about 100 years. Think of these two theories like your bedroom. The bulk phase theory on the right is your room on a Sunday night. Everything, your socks, your homework, your snacks, is chemically combined into one giant pile on the floor. It's a protein matrix of chaos. But the membrane theory on the left is what your parents want your room to look like. Everything has a place, there is a strict barrier at the door, and you have to use energy to actually move things against the laws of passive diffusion, which is just a fancy way of saying cleaning up. Look at the bottom of the slide. The membrane theory says the cell is constantly fighting the laws of physics using energy. It's basically the cell saying, I do not care if there is more salt outside, I'm keeping my internal vibes perfect. The bulk people thought the cell was just lazy, that the ions and water were bound to proteins like they were stuck in a giant spider web. Spoiler alert. The bouncer on the left won the argument. The membrane is the boss and the ATP is the paycheck. If your brain was a cell, are you feeling like the modern consensus that is organized and powered by energy? Or the bulk phase, just a giant ball of living jelly today? So, here is a big secret. You are basically just very organized dust. Look at the left, that is a boring atomic lattice. It's stiff, it's cold, it's just stuff. But then, through the magic of fundamental particle reassembly, which is just a fancy way of saying things got weird, you get the image on the right. A dividing cell membrane, you are a walking, talking architecture of physical laws. You do not just breathe, you use diffusion. You do not just sweat, you use latent heat. You are a physics experiment that learned how to ask, is this going to be on the test? Think of this chapter like a video game. Chapter 1 was the matter level, learning how the basic blocks move and vibrate. But now we have reached the life expansion pack. We took those same microscopic units and built a masterpiece. This slide shows the integrated universe. We have mastered the fundamental particles and now we are using them to power the dividing organic cell. We went from Minecraft blocks to a fully functioning simulation. Basically, you have leveled up from object to organism. Congratulations. Reality is just a giant ball pit. On the left, the balls are stuck in a lattice. On the right, they are forming a cell membrane and making copies of themselves. From empty spaces to semi-permeable membranes, the rules are the same. Stay energetic, keep moving, and try not to let your kinetic energy get too low, or you will turn back into a solid block of wood. To understand the cell, you had to understand the atom. You are now officially masters of the small stuff. Go forth and be complex biological architectures. Now, everyone take a deep breath. You just used diffusion to move oxygen across a semi-permeable membrane to power your biological architecture. If you're feeling tired, it's probably because your kinetic energy is low. Class dismissed. Go reassemble some particles at lunch. Alright, we have covered the integrated universe from vibrating atoms to the high-tech fortress of the cell membrane. But listen, we have only scratched the surface of the chaos. If you think the membrane is picky, wait until you see the absolute drama happening inside the nucleus. I'm breaking all of that down over at Information Nest. It's basically where the boring textbook facts go to get a personality makeover. Go find the nest, hit that sub button, and get ready for the next video where we find out if the mitochondria is actually the powerhouse or if it's just a very good PR agent. Stay curious, stay weird, and I will see you in the nest. And that's a wrap on the small stuff. You now know more about the particulate nature of life than most people on the planet. But if your brain is currently feeling like a high pressure piston, do not worry, I have got your back. For the deep dives, the 2 a.m. study sessions, and the science cheat codes you actually need, head over to my YouTube channel Information Nest. I am dropping a video next week that reveals the top 5 cellular secrets your textbook refuses to tell you. Don't be a solid, be a gas, and expand your knowledge over at Information Nest. See you there. Final thought. You are a trillion cells working together just so you can sit here and listen to this. Do not let them down. If you want to see what happens when we zoom in even further, like DNA level further, you need to be part of the Information Nest community. We are building a nest of knowledge that is way more interesting than a chalkboard. The next video is going to be, well, let's just say things are about to get microscopic. Search for Information Nest on YouTube, join the squad, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you.